It had to be in a hall and catered, which meant, of course, an orchestra and dancing, because you couldn't have 100 people, most of them strangers to each other, just wandering around until it was time to eat. And afterward you couldn't just send them home. Besides, what kind of wedding is it without dancing? And that meant a proper gown for the bride. Everybody will come all dressed up and you'll wear a tweed suit? So Edie went to New York because, as she explained it to Selma Rosencrantz, her best friend, there isn't a thing to be had in Boston, not one single solitary thing that is halfway decent. This, her father, at least, had difficulty in believing, especially after he got the bill. In the whole city of Boston she couldn't find a dress? You want her to look nice, don't you? Mrs. Chernow demanded fiercely. You got one child and she's getting married, a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and you want to scrimp on it? She'll get up to dance with the groom alone in the middle of the floor, everybody looking, and you want her to be wearing some old hand-me-down? They'll dance? He can dance? Asked Mr. Chernow with feigned incredulity, thereby renewing the argument he had been having with his wife. Never in the presence of their daughter, of course, ever since he learned he was about to acquire Roger Fine as a son-in-law. For the young man was slightly lame, and walked with a cane. I have one daughter, a good-looking girl, and young, and the best she can get is damaged goods. He's a little incapacitated, so what? And it's from the war. It's not from the war. He got it during the war. It's a kind of arthritis. He told me so himself. He had a desk job in Saigon, his old duty. So what? Does it interfere with his work? Which touched still another sensitive spot with Chernow. Roger Fine was a teacher. And what kind of living can a teacher make? He's not just a teacher, Mrs. Chernow insisted. He's a professor of English in a college. Assistant professor. So assistant professor, what do you expect? He's a young man, it's his first job. It wasn't only the young man's profession that irritated Chernow, however, it was his whole style and manner. He was so sure of himself, so positive in his opinions, and his opinions were not those of Chernow. He listened when Chernow talked of politics, for example, as he might listen to the barber who was cutting his hair, or the cab driver who was driving him to the airport, politely, but without interest. Chernow suspected he was a radical. Who knows? Maybe even a communist. Because his catering business was strictly kosher, Morris Lubovnik of Lubovnik the Caterers, We Catered Your Mother's Wedding, kept his hat on as he perched on the edge of the sofa, his menus and price lists spread out on the large square coffee table before him. Edie Chernow, her round little rump encased in tight black satin pants, sat at the other end of the sofa, one leg crossed under her, the other dangling over the edge of the sofa, pretending to listen. She had made up her mind as soon as he entered, the minute she saw the shapeless felt hat with the greasy headband, the beads of sweat on the forehead, the blue jowls, the hoarse, rasping voice. Lubovnik glanced down at the floor as he talked, or at his papers on the table, careful never to look directly at her, lest he appear to be staring at the skin-tight pants, or at her breasts, clearly outlined under her low-cut white nylon blouse. He cleared his throat. It's not just a matter of business with me, Miss Chernow. I want only my customers should be satisfied. I want that weeks later they should be able to close their eyes and taste again the deliciousness of the knishes and the meatballs. He closed his eyes and smacked his lips. Now you can have either the roast beef or the roast chicken for the same price. With our customers we got two types, those who swear Lubovnik's roast beef is the best thing they ever tasted, and those who say it's the roast chicken. He smiled broadly, to indicate it was his little joke. Now here... He dived into the suitcase resting on the floor and brought forth a small card. Here is something that's been very popular with our patrons the last few years. You send it out with the invitations, and it lets the guest pick out ahead of time which he wants, the chicken dinner or the roast beef. In that way, everybody is satisfied. Now here's a picture of a sweet table we catered a couple of months ago. Edie finally managed to get rid of him. Promising to study the sample menus, he left with her. But even as she edged him to the door, he stopped several times to search in his briefcase for photographs, letters from satisfied customers. That reminds me, only last week... Totally different was the man from Stillman's of Boston, founded 1890. He was young.